Homes.com, we do whatever it takes to get you the in-depth info on local schools you won't find anywhere else. Things like student-teacher ratio, test scores, and school programs. And sometimes that requires attending school recitals. So many recitals.
That's my son. Isn't he terrific?
Yeah, a real prodigy. Homes.com.
Ding dong.
We've done your homework.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate, Real and Unscripted with Nicole. I'm your host, Nicole Miller, and I'm so excited you're here. If you're a new real estate agent, if you've been in the business for years, if you're a homeowner, a buyer, a seller, or someone who just values being well-informed, like me, you're in the right place. Today's show is going to be a bit of a different format than the future ones. It's going to be a lot about me helping to share a little bit about my background, the reason for why I put this together, and my passions, and why I feel that the content and premise of this show is so important, not just for the real estate agent, but for the end user as well. This show has been a brainchild of mine for many, many years. Over and over again, over the years, I've met people and people ask questions. You know, you'll say, how's the real estate market when you see a realtor? And I don't go into the sales side of it. I go into a whole education mini lesson. And I just get very passionate about what I do and the content of this business. And so after speaking to people for many, many years, everyone's always like, do you have a YouTube channel? Like, you should have a course. Like, I just felt like I just went through a college class. Like, I'm going to need some notes on this. And so they would always bring that up and say, you know, you need to have some sort of a platform to share all this information and knowledge. I didn't know that. I was not aware of that. Oh, wow, that's great information. And so if you know me, you know I'm extremely passionate about education at a very high nerdy level. So it took me a really long time to finally pull the trigger. A long time. But here we are. I'm a teacher at heart, and I genuinely love learning and knowing everything. And I love helping elevate others. Personally, professionally, I kind of just like learning and fixing things and helping people understand everything. Because I don't believe in competition. I don't believe in a scarcity mindset. I truly believe that knowledge is our superpower, and that needs to be the foundation of everything. So a little bit about me. I actually got into this business at my mother's suggestion about 12 years ago. I was burnt out from the corporate world. I was sick and tired of having my wealth and, that my next level positions determined by someone else and being capped and being told how to do things when I knew they were just not right. I've always been an individual thinker, and I used to break things apart, put them back together, and just challenge everything. And so, being told it's best practice, you have to do it this way. And I'm like, that doesn't work for my situation, my store, my whatever it might have been. And so, she had told me, I think you'd be great at real estate. Let me preface this by saying that I am a nerdy type. I build spreadsheets. I was an inventory planning manager, a buyer at a large health food company managing over 10,000 SKUs. I sat behind a desk for a good portion of my career, crunching numbers. And before that, I spent a good portion of that, about 10 years in retail, in the retail space. I started at the age of 15 at Banana Republic, later worked as an assistant store manager at Target, customer service. I did loss prevention for a little bit. And that part of my job was something I craved when I was in corporate, the people side of it. But I was always at the end of the day driven by processes, driven by compliance. I was numbers driven, data driven. So for her to tell me that I should be a salesperson, I was just like, are you out of your damn mind? Like, do you even know the child you birthed? That doesn't make any sense. And so obviously my reaction to that, now that I look back in hindsight, is effectively the sole purpose and driver of why I'm creating this show. It was because the stigma that exists about realtors, the real estate agents, and the industry. And yeah, so basically I told her that she was nuts. And that was the dumbest thing I could have ever imagined myself doing. I'm not going to be a salesperson. I'm not the selling type. I'm not a bullshitter. I keep things real. I'm not someone who's going to be making cold calls and just all the stuff that's involved in sales, right? To me, it was absolutely wild that she would have suggested this. I was supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, like it just didn't make any sense. So my reaction to her was basically, that's nuts. I'm not going to do that. And, and basically looking back on it, I think about why I reacted that way and how I perceive the industry and realtors. And I bought my first house out of college about 2 years, and it was the worst experience ever. I was in a short sale situation, so I couldn't fire the realtor because we were locked in on it for a good 9-10 months until it all kind of reconciled. And I didn't have a great experience. I lost out on a lot of things that I found out later when I became a realtor that I was not told about. And it just really put a bad taste in my mouth and really exacerbated and solidified for me that perception that we have. And so, taking it back to my mom, she said to me when I told her that, I understand what you're saying, but I don't see you as a salesperson. I see you doing it the Nicole way. And I'm like, what do you mean? And what she meant by that was learn it, take it apart, put it back together, master it, challenge it, and change things. Be the guru. Every job I have ever had, that was always my MO. I was basically in those positions. I was super laser focused on understanding everything. I was promised roles. I got new jobs, offerings, and opportunities. I was not trained. They kind of threw me into the trenches. I was responsible for reverse engineering things to figure it out because I didn't get that support. And I was just always the type of person that really liked to make sure I knew everything, and then became the district resource for things, and the people came to me asking questions, and I just like to be able to be educated. And I also like to be able to help others be educated. Nerdy type, top of my class, was supposed to be a doctor, lawyer. And it was very important for me to learn things at not just the shallow level. So I got a license. I spent years feeling uncomfortable, being pressured into scripts, sales tactics. I was told I couldn't build a sustainable business doing things differently. I challenged the status quo of what was out there. I wanted to focus on education. I wanted to focus on the people side of the business. I wanted to focus on the doing the right thing and growing a business by relationships. And really, I was straight up told by someone, and I will never forget that. And that person doesn't know how much they changed the trajectory of my career, and I thank them. But they told me that I would never be successful in this business. Actually, 2 people, now that I think about it. When I first started, one told me that I would not be here in 2 years because I was not a salesperson. And then later on, a mentor told me that I would not be able to build a strong, sustainable business if I didn't do and subscribe to that book, the sales book, the dial talk, the learning the scripts and all of that. And so but I couldn't stomach it. It was not me. Why would I want to learn how to not be myself? Especially if you're going into business for yourself, you should be able to feel that you are authentic and genuine and have that, just satisfaction of life. Like what you do for a living, you should enjoy. I always believed authenticity also attracts the right people. And if I'm not someone's cup of tea, I shouldn't have to manipulate them to be able to have them sign a contract. The focus shouldn't be the role playing, the scripts. It should be learning, researching, and honing your knowledge. And I found over the years that the public is craving that. You guys out there don't like those sales tactics. You don't want to be sold. That's the biggest thing out there. And so I think really at the end of the day, what I want to drive is changing the industry and changing how it's done. I've been a real estate agent full-time for over a decade. And from the beginning, as I said, it's been very clear to me, and it's always bothered me, that the industry is and always has been extremely salesy. We're ranked probably just above the car salesman when it comes to trustability. And that's always irritated me because it completely mitigates the true value of what I know a good real estate professional actually brings to the table when they're doing it right. someone who truly understands the assignment, in my opinion. What do I mean by that? So when I got in the business, almost all the training was about sales. It was rooted in sales training. Fake it till you make it training, learning how to get more clients, learning the neuro-linguistic programming and embedded commands so people signed the contract before you left the house, role-playing objections to master them so that you could kick back and, win that listing regardless, in a way that was all about scripts, about dialogues, cold calling. For years, everything revolved around conversion. And eventually I started connecting the dots and I started to realize that. And I saw the trends and I realized there was a massive problem in this industry. There was a huge lack. The meat and potatoes of actually knowing your craft, knowing your business like the back of your hand, being a true expert advisor with deep knowledge of the real estate ecosystem, as I call it. That type of training that's really rooted in the experiential of what, you can't get a lot of what I'm going to share doing 2 or 3 deals a year. You're getting them from doing 50 to 75 deals a year and being able to be in those trenches and seeing everything and learning and adding it to your database and your pocket so that you can pull it out later. There was very little focus on deeply understanding the practice of real estate, everything it touches, everything it influences, and everything that influences it. That was missing. That is missing, in my opinion. Because of this, I feel like realtors as a whole have not done a great job helping the public understand the value they should expect from us. And I think that's because the role has always been just bucketed as a sales role, sales job focused on closing deals. The barrier to entry is extremely low. The training, in my opinion, is shallow in nature and focused on the sales part of it and driving additional business. And I've always seen my responsibilities as a realtor to be very different. And that is the whole premise of this podcast. There is no requirement for mentorship or apprenticeship in our industry. You can literally pass your real estate exam and sell a house the next day with absolutely no experience. And we learn in real estate school things, right? None of that has any relevance to the day-to-day realities of this job. I'll never forget, I have some, formative moments in the beginning of my career that I can picture it. It was yesterday. I remember driving home on the 595 frantically after showing a house and being asked to prepare a contract. And the question was about I was asking the buyer about the title agent. And I was just hung up on something and it exposed me. It really made me look like they knew I was as green as green is green. And at the time, my mentor wasn't answering their phone. They were obviously busy. I didn't know what to say. Looking back, I looked like a total idiot and I didn't get that deal. Obviously, that person probably was like, oh yeah, definitely this person doesn't know what they're doing. So that moment exposed me. I was raw and it made me realize that deep training doesn't exist. You wing it. You learn experientially eventually. And unless you find a mentor and put it this way, unless you're humbled and you put yourself to realize that you cannot and should not, and in my opinion, it's negligence. You should not be out there with just the book of the real estate course that you took as the premise and foundation for your business. As you get in this business, you need to get a mentor. You need to work with somebody. You need to do deals with somebody. You need to see if somebody is able to let you work alongside them. And so that you can gain all that experiential learning for yourself, things that you will not get until you have to experience them. And so, this just all didn't sit right with me. And for years, I've just been, deal after deal, dealing with people and kind of seeing over and over again, qualifying what I'm thinking and what I'm saying. And that just gosh, that's something that, maybe they didn't know that because they didn't have that experience, but look what could have happened if they did, and it would have changed things. It would have fixed things. It wouldn't have had this problem come up, right? So I made a conscious decision at the time when I started to learn first. I found a mentor. I did a bunch of deals with them. I split commissions. I asked a million questions, drove them freaking nuts, I'm sure. And because of that, I didn't screw up anyone's life, and everything was being done properly behind the scenes. That experience shaped everything for me. Since then, I've mentored many agents who believe in that learn before you earn. And honestly, when you look at other professions, think about it. It's wild what we allow in real estate. You take a 63-hour course, get licensed, and suddenly you think you deserve to make thousands upon thousands of dollars helping someone buy or sell a home, one of the biggest financial decisions of their life. And because we allow this, we as collective and even the powers that be, because I challenge that as well, it shows how little respect we have for the industry, but furthermore, how little understanding we have as to the magnitude of the havoc that can be caused by this profession when not done right, and as to the level of responsibility that exists, that, it's mitigated. It's just it's treated like a glorified door opener. Think about this. Ask your nail technician, if you get your nails done, how many hours of training and experience they need to have before they can be licensed. The nail tech has, our requirements are a fraction of that of someone who's doing your nails. And yes, there's health things involved as well, of course. But in our world, it's financial. It's your biggest investment. It's things that if you don't have the right partner, God help you. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. I'm thinking of examples now, and I'm not going to go off on tangents, but I've met, dozens of people hundreds probably at this point, to be honest, who've shared something with me and said, no, I couldn't do that because the agent told me I couldn't. And I'm like, good Lord, you've owned this house for 10 years and you didn't have homestead on it and you were on the deed with your father as joint tenants. You could have had homestead on it. You've paid over 40 grand in taxes. Additionally, it's a very expensive house, right? So examples, right? So I'm not going to go off on another, we'll talk about that. We're going to open apart all of these things on the show. So, taking it back to the requirements in our industry. After just 2 years, you can get your broker's license. And guess what? You don't need to have a minimum level of deals under your belt. How does that make any sense? I can go on about this forever. So most training focuses on how to get more business, not how to become an expert. Many agents don't even fully understand the contracts they have the client sign. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen things that have gone wrong. And for those buyers on the other end of my listings, I've helped I've helped ensure that things were done right and helped mentor their agent and have had, been able to change their trajectory just from that as alone. We have people, you don't want to feel like you're challenged, and I never want to do that. But if I'm working on a deal with you and I sense that you're green, I'm going to and I know we could validate people's sales history. We pull it up. We could pull it up. I pull it up all the time. I will let you know there's nothing to be ashamed of. You have to start somewhere. But at the end of the day, there has to be that level of having someone that can guide you or having the resources, like the premise of this show, to be able to give you a really full, holistic look on everything that you could possibly know. Because for me, this isn't about competition. It's not about talking down about anybody. I want everyone to do better. But you can't gain this level of expertise without the actual experience, without going through the things, learning from them, putting those lessons in your back pocket so you could prevent that in the future. And what I say about being an expert, right? So I'm saying being an expert. I'm not talking about marketing listings or selling homes, not the sales aspect of our job. That's just one small facet. And unfortunately, though, it's like the only one that gets the most attention. It's the one that people think is what is like all we do, right? I'm talking about the background stuff, the stuff that actually matters, the things that prevent deals from derailing, the things you look for or plan for that protect the buyers and sellers, the red flags you catch before they become a disaster, the things that one should know and catch When, for example, if a client starts telling you certain things about their life and what they're doing or their plans, and we'll go into, you'll kind of see where that comes, where all these things come to life in the different shows. But, things that a client will tell me and I'm like, oh God, I should have them talk to my Medicaid planning attorney. Or, we have to look at something and, have them go and do something to help their situation, right? It's those things. It's having that holistic whole world view, the whole world of real estate view. The contingencies that you plan for before they're needed, the things you look for when you're showing a property that extend far beyond. And you'll hear me say this if you know me and I've trained I do a bunch of classes, and I usually will say far beyond the beautiful kitchen and the beautiful view, and look at these updates. It's the stuff behind that. And we're going to talk deeply about all that stuff, the stuff that matters. I'm giving the vague examples here, but it's ultimately about being super dialed in at a high level and understanding the entire picture, how all the pieces of the real estate ecosystem come together. That's how trust is built. That's how you create clients for life. This business is ever changing, and that's what makes it incredible. But it's important to know and be a constant student, being ravenous for the information. That's always been essential for me. And that's what I believe is a testament to how I've grown my business. And my clients out there can say the same. It's been referral based for years. And it's ultimately because I'll tell people, I own your house before you don't. I own your house before you do. And I want to make sure that you are protected at every level possible. And I also want to make sure that I have all the resources to be able to help you and the full picture. I truly believe that this approach will help break the stigma of our industry. The glorified door openers, the commission-hungry agents, the low-trusted salespeople. I mean, anything you've ever heard, the stuff that causes people to think, why would I hire a realtor? They're useless. I could do it myself. I can tell you that we won't go that route. But I think that when an agent is doing what I've built my business around doing, it's invaluable. My goal with this show is to supercharge this industry, bring years of real world experience, hundreds of transactions straight through your doorsteps, to help professionals elevate their craft, to help consumers feel informed and empowered. And yes, this content is just as relevant to the homeowners, buyers, sellers, investors, as it is to agents. So what can you expect from this show? A truly education-based look at everything that touches the real estate ecosystem. Each week, we'll dive into a topic that matters. I'll host industry professionals, panel discussions sometimes, and sometimes it'll just be me sharing what I've learned about a topic I'm passionate about. We'll talk to attorneys, tax professionals, appraisers, lenders, inspectors, insurance brokers, the property appraiser's office, permit specialists. I mean, the list goes on and on. I've got dozens at this point. And you'll leave with so many golden nuggets that you can take if you are a professional in this field or if you're just a homeowner. And you can share that information because really, like I said, I believe in education. That is our power. So if you're a new agent, a seasoned pro, my goal is to elevate the way you do business and think about it. Because when you do the right things and you focus on the education, the business flourishes. I always tell the agents that I've mentored over the years, you gotta know your shit. The rest follows suit. A wise mentor of mine, my first boss out of college, schooled me, and I thank her for that. But she set the foundation for how I really saw the world and how I built my business and how I conducted myself in every job I've ever had. But she said one thing one day when I was first starting out, and we had a situation. Of course, I was out of college. I knew everything, and I was focusing on the wrong things. And she said to me, you can't decorate a house without a foundation. And in real estate, that foundation is education. So let me be very clear. This is not a perfectly polished, rehearsed show. This is me, real, Unscripted, my experiences, my opinions, my perspectives from selling over 50 to 70 homes a year as a solo agent. My goal is to help you feel confident, informed, and empowered in anything related to real estate. Thank you so much for being here. If this resonates with you, follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Leave a review, share it with a friend. This is Real Estate, Real and Unscripted with Nicole, and I'm so glad you are coming along with me for the ride.
With comprehensive reports on local schools you won't find anywhere else, Homes.com is the only place to find the in-depth info home shoppers want. Very in-depth info. Curious about where a school ranks in the state? Look no further. Percentage of teachers in their first or second year? We've got it. Lowest student-teacher ratio? No problem. The best cafeteria lunch in the district for your 9-year-old food blogger? Would it surprise you if we said yes?
Homes.com.
Ding dong.
We've done your homework.